amazing what happens to people when they put this fuel in their bodies, and it's also amazing what happens to people when they choose to take up this business opportunity and help others, and thereby create an income for themselves, which can be small, medium, big, huge, whatever you choose. That's the great thing about this business. It is a business of choice. So a little bit about Relive. Relive is a food science company. It's been established for 26 years, and we have products that are totally changing people's lives. And I've invited some people, well, actually, Joni has invited some people on the call today who are going to share their stories. And first of all, I'm going to go to Minnesota, to Margaret. Margaret, would you like to share with everybody just what's happened for you since you met Relive, or how things were before and how you feel now?
Sure, Leslie. My name is Margaret Visa, and I live in Minnesota, or St. Paul, Minnesota. And I began Relive product mainly for hot flashes. Besides hot flashes, I had eye floaters, and I was in 7 car accidents. In the 4th one, I broke 14 bones. 9 were my ribs, and 5 were my pelvis. So I had back pain for probably about 30 years. I also had asthma. I was on inhalers and a nebulizer. And when I began the Relive products, I've noticed right away my breathing was improved, and I was able to get off my inhalers and nebulizer. Within 5 months, my eye floaters went away, and I thought, I've never heard anybody get rid of their eye floaters, and they were completely gone. And then next was the back pain from the car accidents. It was gone in 9 months, and I was just so amazed. I never thought that would go away, since I had it for like 30 years. So I'll always be taking Relive. I just love it. After the back pain went away, though, I thought, this stuff is so good, I need to share it. There's not enough people sharing what these products do. So I went around sharing with whoever wanted to listen, and I started making an income. So I resigned from being a receptionist, which I was for 25 years. So I just keep on sharing the Relive stories. My highest month so far was $1,400, and I just continue sharing. I love it.
Wow.
And that's the story.
Well, that's wonderful, Margaret. I mean, it's changed your life, and I would think most people would think they had the worst of life if they had 7 car accidents and had all those issues you've had. But their Relive has turned your life around and changed your life, and now you're helping to change other people's. It's a wonderful, wonderful merry-go-round of business, isn't it?
It is.
To help others because of what's happened for you. Thank you so much for sharing your story. We really appreciate having you on the call.
You're welcome.
Well, now I'm going to go to Michigan, to Trish. Trish, would you like to share what's happened for you?
I'd be happy to. Can you hear me okay, Leslie and Joni? Great, great. Well, I was introduced to Relive in November of 2008. I can't believe it's been this long, and I can't believe how great I feel, and feel good every day is just, it's such a blessing. Before I'd been introduced to Relive, I exercised well, I ate a vegetarian diet, made sure I had all kinds of supplements going into my body, but it seems like I was sick all the time. I had very poor, slow digestion and low energy. I was just tired all the time. So I had gone to the doctor to find out what was wrong with me, and they diagnosed me with chronic fatigue syndrome. And they just said that's kind of one of those viruses that you can catch, and it seemed like I was catching all kinds of viruses that would always turn into a sinus infection. Chronic sinus infections, and it just made life miserable. Also dealt with headaches almost every day since I was about 12 years old. So I was taking over-the-counter and prescription medications for that, and it just seemed like I was on antibiotics and medications, and I was way too young to be feeling as tired and old as I was feeling. So I got started on the basic nutrition, and I did exactly what my friend told me to do. As directed, she told me twice a day at least. And I started to see results within the first few weeks. I felt better energy, started to sleep better, and over time, the headaches have subsided. I rarely deal with them any longer, do not have any sinus infections, sinus troubles, haven't been on antibiotics. My digestion is normal, and I can't believe that. That's life-changing to me, not to be bloated and feeling weighted down and just not a good feeling to have bad digestion. And just all these things have given me such a sense of wellness that I can't go a day without these shakes. There's no way. And being a flight attendant, it's so easy to travel with and share them with others as well. When they see me making my shakes, they always ask me what I'm doing. So it's a great way to help others. And my husband and my whole family has had incredible results. So you better believe I will never stop taking these products.
I believe you. I know just what these products have done for me. There's no way anyone's going to take these away from me.
Right.
Just the same. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Trish.
My pleasure.
Well, now I'm going to go to Montana, to Shannon. Shannon, would you like to share with everybody just what's happened for you? If you just press *6, that will unmute your line.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay, I'm Shannon Bombach, and I live in Whitefish, Montana. I am a stay-at-home mom. I have 3 little boys, ages almost 6, 3.5, and 15 months. And when I was introduced to Relive about 6 years ago now, I was 6 months pregnant with my first son, and I wasn't actually looking for a supplement, but I was interested in a business opportunity. And after I heard the stories, I decided to put aside my prenatals and switch over to Relive. And I was working part-time at that time, and but I was just tired all the time. I only worked a few hours a day, but I just slept the rest of the time or laid around, and I just wasn't doing anything. I didn't even want to cook dinner, and I just was, so after starting on Relive, I took the product faithfully, and after 2 weeks, I noticed that I had sustained energy. I stopped taking naps. I added 4 to 6 hours to my day, and so I had more energy in my third trimester than I had in my first 2, and then I had a great delivery and everything. All of my children are very healthy. They don't have sick visits to the doctors. They've never had any ear infections or been on any antibiotics. And so I feel very blessed for that. And then, but also after myself being on the products for about 6 months, I noticed that I couldn't remember the last time I'd had a headache, and I used to get tension headaches quite often, like every day almost. I was always begging my husband for massages, and nothing helped. And now a headache is a rare thing, and when it happens, I know I can just take an extra shake or two and really find relief. And then my husband also, he got really great results with energy and just a stronger immune system, but also he used to suffer from sciatic pain, and he would see the chiropractor pretty regularly, and then his chiropractor just told him that you're just getting old and you're just going to have to deal with the pain. There's nothing that can be done. And he was only 35 when he was told that. So he was kind of back and forth with Relive, being skeptical and then believing in it and being skeptical. But once what happened was he got injured at work, and he really messed up his back, and I just said, you're taking these shakes, and I made him 3 or 4 double shakes a day. And he had gone to the chiropractor and been given muscle relaxants and told that he would be out of work for at least a week and probably 2. And I had him taking these shakes, and he was back to work 2 days later, and his back was healing better than it had, and he became a real believer. And now the sciatic pain has been gone for the last 3 years, and so he's very consistent with his Relive now. So we've all felt a great blessing with the product, and then also the business. I've just been building as I can around my children, and just last month I had a residual income of $150, which sounds not very much, but to me that really is a great just indicates the kind of hope we can have in this company. And those are sorry, I guess that's the end of my story. My 3-year-old. But anyways, so I'm glad we will always be taking the products, and thanks for having me share.
Well, that is a wonderful family story, and I guess those 4 to 6 extra hours a day that have been added to your life are very useful with three boys of the ages you've got. I'm sure that it takes all your time. It's wonderful to hear that the products have helped your whole family. That is just amazing. And as you keep sharing, your income will grow. It's just inevitable. That's just how it is. So thank you so much for being on the call and sharing your story. Really appreciate it. Well, these stories they just are amazing. And somebody who I have met several times before is our next speaker. And Earl has the most amazing story about his mom. And I think I'm correct in saying you're in Chicago, or the Chicago area anyway. Earl, would you like to come on and just share with everybody just what happened?
Yes, Leslie, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm actually in the Chicago area in Northfield where I live. And I was introduced to Relive actually first by the radio. I heard about it and inquired about it, was interested in it, but I couldn't perceive that I had any real need for it. It just was something of interest to me. I run a construction company and had started a building material supply company, and was, I guess, your typical, AA, AAA kind of guy, very healthy, athletic, active in church and working with children, and also running the business and enjoying life. And I can't explain how it all started, but I began to notice that I wasn't sleeping well at night. It began to inhibit my work a little bit. I'd have to come home and take a nap. And then I began to experience acid reflux, which I'd never had before in my life again. And things just seemed to be progressing. I was getting worse and worse. I went to the GNC store and got their men's mega vitamin mineral program, thinking, maybe that's what I need to supplement myself so that I would feel better. But I just continued to get worse and worse until finally I got not blood blisters, but water blisters on my back and my arms. And it was just a little like the size of a dime or a penny, and you could poke it with a pin and clear water would come out and it'd dry up. And then I started to have night sweats, and at that my wife thought, you're having change of life, and she'd have to wake me up because I would be soaking wet. My pajamas and bed covers would be wet, and she was concerned I'd catch cold. I was still trying to overcome it by taking naps during the day and trying to eat right and taking these vitamins. And then I got heart palpitations. My heart started to jump in my chest at night, and only had to do that one night. The next day I went to the doctor. He diagnosed me and asked me some personal questions, and I affirmed to him that, I wasn't drinking and I wasn't taking drugs. He said he knew that. He asked me if I was having an affair or if I was gambling or if I had some great debt, something that wouldn't show, in my physical makeup, but could be upsetting me mentally. I assured him that I loved my wife and family, the church. I loved my life, and I wasn't in debt. And I said, well, what's the prognosis here? And he said, this is stress. The condition you're undergoing is from stress. And he says, if you don't sell your businesses and move to Arizona or Florida or someplace where you can live a sedentary life, he says, you'll probably have a heart attack in 6 months. It was kind of a strange thing for a friend who's your doctor to tell you, but that's what he said. And I said, well, what do I do? And he said, well, I just told you what you have to do. You have to remove the stress from your life, and I think it must be your work, because there's no overt signs that I can see medically to cause this. So he said, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to pray about it. And he said, I knew you'd say that. He said, while you're praying, start making plans to move. So so I went home, told my wife. We prayed about it. In the meantime, I was caring for my mother who has Alzheimer's, but that was not a point of stress for me. It was a privilege for me to be able to kind of pay back, you know. Our mothers and fathers take care of us when we're little, and in the final years of her life, I got to take care of her. I thought that was a special privilege, and I enjoyed it. But I made a trip to Wisconsin to visit with some friends that I've been out of touch with, and when I got there, they introduced me to Relive. It turned out, without my knowing it, that my friend had Alzheimer's and had taken Relive and was making tremendous strides in overcoming the Alzheimer's. So I returned home from Wisconsin to get on Relive and get my mother on it. And I literally started to take the shakes on a Tuesday afternoon when the representative came to me with the product. And I took it Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening. I woke up that evening about 1 o'clock, which was what happened to me every night, about 1 o'clock, 1:30. And then I'd come downstairs and I'd wait for myself to kind of settle down and pray, read, you know, that kind of thing, and then go back to bed or go to work. If it started to get light out, I'd just get dressed and go to work. So the first night, I got up and I went to the washroom and I went downstairs, and I was downstairs and I said, you know, I think I'll go back up to bed. I was only down there maybe 20, 30 minutes. The next day I had 3 shakes. I took 3 shakes because that's what Richard took. He was taking 3 shakes to overcome his Alzheimer's. I didn't have Alzheimer's, but I thought, you know, if 3 shakes good for him, it will be good for me. So I took 3 shakes. That night I went to bed again. I woke up, went to the washroom, started to go down the stairs and said, you know, I think I can go back to bed. And I went back to bed. And then the third night after 3 more shakes, or third day after 3 more shakes, I woke up at night. I said, I think I go to the bathroom. I won't. I rolled over. I have to tell you, 18 years later, I'm still sleeping through the night. All my symptoms disappeared. And what's so amazing about that is I had a cardiologist do the physical on me, and you heard his conclusion. But I found out that I was starving to death, as well-fed as I was and as regular I was about working out and enjoying my life. I was still starving to death because I was burning out all the nutrients in my system. I couldn't eat enough to replenish it. And Relive just did that one thing. It gave me the nutrition that my body needed to be successful, for my body to be successful. And I'm still that way. Sometimes it's embarrassing for me to be with other people my age. I'm 73, and I try not to tell them my age because they start feeling bad because of the energy level I have and the cognitive strength I have as well. I enjoy my work. I'm still running a business, and it's a family business. You know, that's a special thing in itself. But the other story I would tell you just briefly is about my mother. She was diagnosed with Alzheimer's while she was living in New Mexico, and I went down there to visit with her. She'd had heart surgery, and after the heart surgery, she suffered some oxygen deprivation. And the doctors told us that after she'd been recovered from that and extended her stay in the hospital for 1 week, we met with them, and they told us that she had Alzheimer's. She probably had dementia before, but the onset of the oxygen deprivation had caused the Alzheimer's to emerge. And so my mother's desire was to stay in New Mexico, and so we supported her there. And I'd go down monthly, once a month, to visit with her and care for her affairs and so forth. Got to a point where she couldn't stay there anymore because she needed 24/7 care. I had day care for her. People would come to her home and stay with her for the day and into the evening, but they wouldn't stay all night. And when it came to a point where she needed somebody with her 24/7, we had to bring her home. Our plan was to bring her home to live in our home. We have room to do that. We could do it. And in the month it took between the time we made that decision and I went to get her and bring her back, she had appreciated it all the more. And I knew on the trip back that we would not be able to keep her in our home. Her personality had changed. She became kind of bitter, angry, it's hard to. I don't like to talk about my mother in negative terms, but it was very bad. It was not my mother. It was clear to me somebody had taken over her body, and that whoever that was not a very nice person at all. So I had a plan B. I'm a builder, and so I'm always making plans, and so I had a plan B, and we took her to a facility that I had inspected and made this potential arrangement with, and so we took her there, and they took her up right in, and over the 4 weeks that she was there, those first 4 weeks, she just got worse and worse, and she would cuss and swear and tell lies about me, and when I'd come, she'd start to yell and carry on, and, I'm going to steal her money, this is the man who's trying to hurt her, things like that, things you wouldn't expect to hear from your mother ever, in all eternity. You'd never think to hear that. Well, it was during that time I went to Wisconsin and heard about Relive and brought it back, and I started taking it myself. I went over to give it to my mother, and they told me that she couldn't do it. She couldn't have it. It had to be under a doctor's order. This is an important thing, an important lesson here. And so I contacted the gerontologist. The problem was he was in the Amazon jungles in Central America, and he would be back, but I couldn't talk to him because he was in a station where they didn't have a continuous 24/7 contact. And I keep going back and asking them, please give this to my mother, please give this to my mother. And finally, one of the nurses came up to me and she said, we can't give it to her, but you can because you're her guardian. You can do what you please to do, and we can't stop you, so why don't you give it to her? And so I did. The interesting thing, when I went to give it to her, I made the first shake for her, and she said, I'm not going to drink that. You're going to poison me. I'll throw it all over you. She tried to grab it out of my hand. And I think I was inspired to say to her, I said, Mom, if you drink this, I'll leave right away. And she guzzled that right down, all 12 ounces. I couldn't believe how quickly she drank it down. Thrusted the cup in my hand or the glass in my hand. I said, now you get out of here. And that's what I did. But I only made one kind of deal, and that was if she would drink it, I'd leave right away. So I came back at noon, we did it again. I came back at dinner, we did it again. And for the whole week I was doing that. And I missed on it on one day. And when I came back, I was late. It was the noon drink. I didn't get there before the meal. I got there after the luncheon meal. And she scolded me that I was late, that she was looking forward to her drink, and how could I be so inconsiderate to her? She was still pretty nasty, but she knew that she'd missed something. I went home and told my wife, I said, I think we're getting through to her. Mom realized that she missed, that I was late, and she scolded me, Mm-hmm. So that continued. On the following Sunday, I went to visit with Mom. I went to church. I was late again. I saw her in the morning, and I was late getting there again because of taking my family to church. It was all a new routine, and I didn't allow enough time to do everything. When I got there, she wasn't in her room, and that was a bad sign because she was under constraints. She could not leave her room. She was always tied down to her bed unless somebody was with her. So when I saw the constraints in the bed and she wasn't there, I thought, we're in trouble here. She's escaped. She was a 4-time escapee, meaning she'd walked out 4 different times, and I was under instruction to find another place for her. And so I went to the nursing station and said, where's my mother? And they said, she's in the sunroom. And I looked at her, and she said, yes, really, she's in the sunroom. Go see her. And I stepped into the doorway, and there was my mother looking right at me, all dressed, shoes, nylons, dress, blouse, hair was done. She looked wonderful. It was like 20 years ago. And I saw her, and I didn't even get to say hello to her, and she said, oh, Earl, dear, darling. And just a moment, and I'll excuse myself. And she was talking to 2 people, and she came over and talked to me, took me by the hand, or the arm rather, and started to walk down the hall, and she said to me, son, as long as I'm going to be here for a while, she said, I think I can help these people. We started to talk about that. I left her. I went back to the nurse's station. I said, what happened? And the nurse said, what's that Relive you're giving her? Didn't you notice? All week she was improving, and I didn't notice. Now, not everybody gets the same results. Richard, my friend, was actually had his Alzheimer's go into remission. and he's still alive today. My mother's died. She had a heart attack, had surgery, had another heart attack, and finally died from her weakened heart. But the last 2 years of her life were the best years, as far as I'm concerned, because Relive brought her back to her cognitive functions. Her incontinence went away. She could walk without a walker. I didn't even need a cane. We could have a date night, go to the movies. Funny thing about that, we'd always go to the movies, and then she'd tell me when we were leaving the movie, that's the best movie I've ever seen. We went to 2 or 3 movies before I figured out that she didn't remember the prior movie, but she could tell me everything about the movie that she'd just seen. and then we'd go out, and she'd order hot fudge sundae and a hamburger. I'd take her to the finest restaurants we could go to, and she'd ask them, she said, I don't see what I want on the menu, and then the waiter would say, well, what would you like to have, ma'am? She said, I'm looking for a hamburger. And he said, I think we can make one of those for you. And it was a wonderful time. Her siblings, my uncles and aunts, came to visit with her that first 4 weeks, and she didn't know them. They came to visit with her 3 months later, 2 months later, I should say. 3 months after she'd come to Chicago, but 2 months after she'd been on Relive. And she knew them by name. I can't tell you what a scene it was to see them have their sister recognize them and begin to talk with them again. She died 2 years later after we brought her up here, and she was on Relive for 2 years. She died of normal causes. Her body wore out. But when she died, having now had Alzheimer's for over 10 years, and it was going on her 11th year, she died in her sleep at night, knowing that I was there, knowing that just what was going on, and at peace. And it's a wonderful story. It was a wonderful experience. And because of it, I'm still taking Relive. I help many other people with it. I have a woman right now who's with pancreatic cancer. This is her 1 year anniversary since she was diagnosed. Actually, January was her 1 year anniversary since she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She's been on Relive since August. I'm sorry, she started in April. And so she's been on Relive now for 1 year. And she just returned from her vacation with her family in Florida, the condo they have down there. And I saw a friend yesterday, just last night, who saw the woman with pancreatic cancer. And the woman said to me, isn't it wonderful how Mary looks so healthy and so strong and so good?
Yeah.
And I just smiled and said, yes, it is.
Yeah. You know, that is the reward of this business. This, you know, the whole Relive thing is that we get to see people change. And you certainly got your mum back. You know, that person who was aggressive and not pleasant to you at all, it wasn't your mum. That was the disease that was impacting her. By giving her Relive, you changed that and you got your mum back. And that is a wonderful story and great story of your own. I mean, and it's great to know that you're still helping other people. So thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate you being on the call.
All right. God bless.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everybody who shared on the call. That was Earl, Shannon, Trish, and Margaret. Great stories. Everybody is going to love reaching back and playing these stories over to other people, because we do record this call, and this will be week 72. So if you want to make a note of that and you want to bring anybody else to this call so that they can hear these stories, there is a special dial-in number for the playback, which you can either get from Joni or from myself. And also you use the same pin as the normal listen pin, and then you will need to know it's week 72. So I'm just going to stop the recording.